Hi, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. When I saw Tula Pink's new line called Sail Away by Free Spirit Fabrics, I fell in love with it. I knew I had to do something nautical with it, so I started looking around and thinking about blocks. I happened to notice our half hexagon template makes a perfect boat bottom. So let's talk about this quilt. So here is our block. Here's the half hexagon boat bottom. And I'm going to show you how to make this block. So cute, so easy. Now when I made this quilt, I bought a layer cake. I had a whole layer cake, and you'll notice there's only 12 boats in this quilt, 3 across and 4 down. And so I had leftover squares, so I made 2 quilts out of 1 layer cake. So that's a little good tip to know, especially when you have grandchildren as fast as I do. And I just had a new one, so he's going to get a sailboat quilt, which is really fun for me. So let's, I want to talk a little bit about this sashing. You can see that I sashed on all these sides, and on every other one, I left the sashing off at the beginning of the row. This gives the boat some movement back and forth. You know, they're not blocked up. They set aside from each other. And so to make this quilt, you're going to need a layer cake or 12 10-inch squares. You're going to need 1 3/4 yards for the solid white. That's for each quilt. And you're also going to need about 1 yard for the border out here. And I think, let me see over here, let me check. 1 3/8 yards of this blue sashing right here. It's just an adorable line. You're going to love it. So let's get to making this quilt. The first thing we're going to do is we're using white yardage for this rather than layer cakes because we need more pieces than our layer cake will give us. But I've gone ahead and cut this yardage into a 10-inch square. I'm going to lay it with my the square I'm going to cut for my boat, and I'm going to cut those out at the same time. So the half hexie takes half a layer cake. So what I'm going to do here is I think I'll do it from this direction. It'll make a little more sense in my brain. And I'm actually going to turn this around. If I did it the other way, I would have a chance of nicking into this top half of this layer, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my sides meet up on my layer cake and make sure my bottom meets up down here. I'm going to cut off these little sides like this. I'm going to come across here and cut off the top. And I'm going to cut this side over here just like this. All right, now what we have is our boat shape right here on the bottom. You can see that. And we have a white piece that's identical. Now the white piece we're going to cut in half, so I'm going to lay it back again on my mat, and I can see that this is, let me move this off over here. I can see that this is, it's 10 inches, so the 5-inch line is going to be in the middle, and I'm going to cut this right in half. This is going to make the pieces for the outside of my boat, because what we're making right now is the boat. So here's our boat bottom right here, and then here's these pieces, and what we're going to do is we're going to flip these over, and we're going to sew them on like this. And that's going to give us the bottom half of our block. So let's go to the sewing machine and sew those on. Now when you lay these on, the little edge pieces don't match up exactly. They're just for ease in cutting out on the edge. So you're just going to lay this together and go ahead and sew your 1/4 inch down. Grab my petal out there. And I'm going to do both sides here. One more. You just want to make sure you get the angles in the right direction, or you'll have a wonky thing on the side. So I kind of lay my piece so it hangs off just a little bit. Then I go ahead and sew down. There we go. Go ahead and grab those threads off of there. Now I want to get you so you have a good look at what I'm talking about here. See how you have a little piece sticking off there and this little piece sticking off there. They don't line up exactly. You just kind of hang them over, and then when you open up, it opens up nice and straight, and so that then becomes our boat bottom. Now we're going to go ahead and iron this to the boat side. We want our fabric not to show through to the white. And we have the bottom half of our block completed. So to the top half, Now when you cut your layer cake square in half, you're going to end up with a piece like this, which will give you a 5-inch square for your sails, because we're going to make the sails exactly the same way that we make the easy pinwheels, which means we need 2 identical 5-inch squares. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these 5-inch squares and out of the top half of this. Now I will not be using this sail for this boat. So once you get all your pieces and your sails made, you'll want to swap them around so that you have so that you mix up your sails. But I'm just kind of showing you how it's easy to cut it this way. So now you have your 2 pieces ready, and you're going to put your light with your dark on top of each other, and we're going to sew all the way around the outside edge. Now I have one here cut out of another boat that I made, and we're going to go ahead and sew that together over here and make our sail. All right, so we've sewn all the way around, and you'll get familiar with this method because I use it a lot. I love half square triangles, and I like to go ahead and use them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm lining up my ruler where my seams cross and making sure that the edge of the ruler is on the points of the block. I'm going to go ahead and cut that diagonally both directions. Make sure it stays lined up. If your pieces move, you want to make sure you move them right back so that you get a great, nice, clean layout. Then we're going to take this over to the iron. We're going to put it dark side up. Set our seams. We can do that all at once. And then we'll lift them open and roll them back. There we go. And just press them all. And this gives us 4 half square triangles really quickly. So now we have 4 of these, and instead of putting them together as a pinwheel or something else, we're making a sail. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to line them up this way so that they're all facing the same direction, and it gives us the look of a sailboat. So then when you put the bottom of your boat on here, you know, it's going to be really cute. So then you're just going to lay these together just like you'd sew together a 4-patch. So now I've gotten these 2 rows sewn together just like this. We'll iron them open and grab this one. And then we're going to sew these 2 rows together to make a block. And I have one here that I've done, this cute little red one. And what we're looking at with our boat is we want this sail to set right in the center of our boat, and we need to put pieces on either side of this. So when I'm creating the block, just so you know, because all of our seams differ, what I do is I go ahead and measure out here, and I see exactly how many inches I need. And then I go ahead and cut a piece that's the width of this and the height of this. Now for me, those came out to 4 3/4 by 5 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and I have 2 of those pieces cut right here, and I'm going to go ahead and sew those on. And they'll probably end up a little big. The benefit of that is it gives me a little room to trim to square up my block. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this on. And before I go to the iron, I'm just going to turn it around and sew my white piece on the other side. All right, grab these threads. Oh, I'm terrible with my threads. Okay, so let's iron this open. And then I like to take my boat and fold it in half and do a little finger press on the seam right here so that I know exactly where the center is. Then I'm going to line up the center of this, fold them right sides together, and I'm going to put a little pin in there so that I can make sure that it stays. If I can find, oh, here's a little pin. Almost couldn't find a pin. How crazy is that? Well, I don't pin very often. But I like those to stay together. So then I'm going to match this up and go ahead and sew it 1/4 inch all the way down. When I get to the center, I'll want to remove that pin. I know I'm trying to be good. I used to live dangerously. Sew right over the pin. But I'm trying to be good now. Remember to take my pin out. It's always better to be safe than sorry. All right, so now we're going to press this open. Okay, so now we have this great little sailboat block. A little uneven at this end, so I'm going to square that up on this one side. And I'm going to use my use the bottom of my boat to square it off, because I know that those are even because I used one half hexie and cut it right in half. So I know those are even. So I'm going to use the bottom of that and square it off. And I have this darling sailboat block. How cute is that? So then what I did was I just sewed the sashing on these these right-hand sides, and the sashing in here. Now this sashing is directional, so when I cut these pieces, I wanted my birds to be going the right direction. So I cut an 8-inch strip, which was how tall, or wait a minute, I'm not sure how tall it is, let me look. 10-inch. I cut a 10-inch strip and then cut those into 2.5-inch segments, so the birds would be going the right direction, because you don't want your birds laying over. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the sailboat block from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.